Thank you for staying with us. It's still VOP this morning on Voice of the People Television, and we're moving straight down to the front pages of the national dailies. We have with us in the studio Mr. Akin Fatunke, who is an economist, a communication consultant, and he's here in the studio this morning in capacity of a public affairs commentator. Good morning, Mr. Akin.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the studio.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
Nice one.
David and Moses.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, let's move straight down to the front pages of the national dailies. Before me this morning, we have the Vanguard newspaper. And we have a major pictorial there which shows, it has a headline, Brewing Industry Choking Over High Cost of Raw Materials. And we have the riders there to be. Expenses rise 113% to 188 billion naira. Importation alternative stifled by high exchange rate. Top brewers borrows 812 billion naira to survive. Loan repayment, the cost rises to 191%. Losses escalated by 1,034%. And you can get that details and more on page 34 of the Vanguard newspaper. And just above the nameplate, the window headlines there. This one is on insecurity. Tinubu talks ECOWAS member state on financial commitment. And that's on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. YCBN insists on another recapitalization, according to Kodos. So you can get that on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. And we come beside that, beside the pictorial. Court orders ex-minister to account for $729 billion. Wow, that's a huge amount. And that's on page 10 of the Vanguard newspaper. And that is one of the things we'll be looking at today. It's part of our talking point today on the morning show. Kidnapped journalist, police combed first as NUJ demands release. You can get that on page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. And we have more like an editorial, which is on page 15. Monday interview, MKO 26 years after. Why this nonsense must stop? And that is by Abiola. So if you have any interest in this, you can go straight down, pick the Vanguard newspapers, and then go through so that you have the details, information, as regards all the headlines we'll read out. Mr. Akin, when I was going through those headlines, you were nodding your head as an elder you are, and I know you have a lot you want to talk about. So which of those headlines do you want to react to?
The brewing industry is growling, and they are not alone for the cost of raw materials. Please add on to that the logistics for import substitution. We have virtually become import dependent. And I know that at one point in time, the plan was for the backward integration. The brewery plants, the confectionery plants, Nestle, just mentioned it, even the pharmaceuticals were actually thinking of putting their farm and their farmlands together so that they can backward integrate as much as they could. The essence being, one, increase what you can call employment and employment capacity. Secondly, reduce the stress on forex. None at that time envisaged that Nigeria was going to be in a state of anomy that we have found ourselves by way of the security, herdsmen, farmers clash. So that is real. It speaks to the fact that we virtually went to bed on a backward integration initiative, not helped by the advent of COVID, the global shocks that came with COVID, just name them. So where are we right now? We are paying heavily for what we did not plant.
Now, speaking of paying heavily, does
Yesterday.
this look like, with these figures, that's 188 billion, isn't this a concern? Is there the possibility that this industry might just be going extinct, just like some did go extinct, particularly the textile industry in Nigeria?
Oh, well, the fears are latent, they are there. They will always be there. But what, therefore, is management for you to recalibrate,
Talking about them being
re-strategize,
there, Guinness just left.
re-strategize. They didn't leave. They changed their mode. I am in the oil and gas industry. ExxonMobil left us because they needed to change their operational modes. And that is not happening only in Nigeria. But yes, we are focusing on Nigeria. I think the harsh economic climate not helped in any way by our attempt, I use the word attempt, by our attempt to repair a lot of the rust that we've had. I think by way of implementations, it's not helping. We take one step forward, and then 2 steps are backwards, and then you want to, by the time you reclaim, at least you try your best to reclaim 1 step, you are still 1 step backwards.
Is there a possibility that the government can help in making this industry do better from this point that they are? Because 812 billion borrowing fund to help an industry to get better. I mean, this is quite a figure. Is there a way the government can help?
Looking at our MPR rates
to make this sustainable?
Certainly. Certainly.
With the rate of the MPR,
so
26.25%.
We can go into the economics. All those numbers, I have an idea of where. But can we go to the basics? Are we secured?
Which is?
Are we secured? Is Nigeria secured? Even if you want to do backward integration, situations where you are beheading farmers and then cows and herdsmen are running roughshod across, not just Nigeria, across the Sahel, and the fact that we have not been having the political will, I repeat, the political will to do the right things in terms of border closure. We are not earning enough. By the time you could say Robinson before Jack, the Jackpot syndrome is up all there. The educational institutions are not working. Our health, from consulting clinics, is now comatose. So all I'm saying, the fundamentals need to be put in place, and then, of course, the almighty democracy, our election and electoral process needs a lot of recalibration.
All right.
Perhaps we have become too big. We need to become smaller to be much more efficient.
As an economist,
in different parts. Yeah.
As an economist, Mr. Akin, just in less than 30 seconds before we move over to another headline, another paper, let me put it that way, why CBN insists on another recapitalization? Do you think that this will help Nigerian economy?
Yes, it will help Nigeria.
Remember, we've tried first, it didn't work out, then we have to come again with another second one now.
Yes, the first time it worked very well.
How do you mean?
It will take me 1 hour for me to analyze.
Okay.
We had hang on, but no, seriously speaking,
Right.
you have touched on the nerve of the future of Nigeria, your future, my future, future of my grandchildren, in sense that what we have in the banking industry so far has not helped us. Cash and carry, quickery. We needed strong banks that would be able to lend to the commanding heights. This one, lend state governors to go and build roads. We'll be doing round tripping. We are really not doing the right kind of banking that we need. The Soludo consolidation was top notch. Yes, I mean, it could not have been 100%, but in my estimation, the Soludo recapitalization paved way for the financial inclusion that we have reached so far. We are not yet there. For technology to have come, and for the fact that we had very serious offshore partners that came into Nigeria. And so you had the Agboma Grade that became Wema, you had the ACB that went comatose, and quite a number of others that went under. The Nigerian banking system, especially the one that we have had in the past 8, 9, going to about 9 years under MFLA, was nothing but a hogwash. And so we need serious recapitalization where we will not be looking for, I hope you won't mind if I say this, Fina, pretty girls like you will be working in banks, and on your first day, they will ask you to go and look for 2 billion. From where? You can't get that. And has ripple effect on quite a number of things. The way to go, and I can say for sure, thank you for giving me this opportunity, because the stakeholders are aware. There are forces ganging up to try and see, for one reason or the other, that the recapitalization should not happen. Let's continue to be our regional banks here and there. And while that is going, we are not doing the things that we are, we are supposed to be doing. Pure and simple.
All right, then. Well, quite an elaborate one there. Let's go to another daily now. The Guardian is up next. The banner headline here reads, and it's of major interest because this will have to do with people being laid off. Revenue expenditure mismatch. States may sack 600,000 employees to implement minimum wage. Interesting. And then there is a breakdown. Total IGRs of states, 2018, 1.1 trillion naira. 2019, 1.56 trillion naira. 2020, 1.21 trillion naira. 2021, 1.6 trillion naira. And 2022, 1.8 trillion naira. Well, 2023 total states personnel cost equals 1.94 trillion naira. Right beside that one, we have states with highest personnel cost to revenue ratio. Kano, 41%, Imo, 37.6%, Adamawa, 37.3%, Taraba, 37.2%, Ogun, 35.6%. Now, states with the lowest personnel cost to revenue ratio, we have Akwa Ibom with 15.6%, Ebonyi, 16.4%, Bayelsa, 16.4% as well, Lagos, 16.6%, and Anambra, 17.6%. Okay, I would like you to touch on this statement, really, that about 600,000 people may be laid off for minimum wage of 62,000 naira, because that's where we still are right now. Government hasn't increased it, and governors are saying, no, we can't pay this amount of money. All right, let's go quickly. Underneath that headline, we have NDLEA arrest couple, recover 2.1 billion naira worth of drugs in Lagos raid. ECOWAS, Tinubu begins new mandate, tasked to return breakaway states. How feasible? We'll wait to see. Saying that almost all the states in ECOWAS have one form of coup or the other. It's either anyway, let's move away. Students loan, 115 state-owned institutions yet to submit and release data. ICPC intercepts 10 billion naira of COVID-19 fund in MDA account, 100 million naira in personal account. Interesting. NLC insists on 250,000 naira, vows to reject FG's 62,000 naira minimum wage. We're just talking about that one. Petrol scarcity lingers in Abuja and Lagos. Queues resurface in states. All right. And concerns as socioeconomic pressure heightens suicide missions among youths. All right. These are the headlines from the Guardian newspaper. Mr. Fatunke.
When you are lazy, when you are inextricably lazy, or, too much wealth or too much enjoyment make you not to be able to think straight, you get into some of the sound bites that we get. We always get that sound bites. Yes, in terms of economics, it has to be, can you pay? And if you cannot pay, two things will go for it. You lay off.
You're talking about the minimum wage?
Yes.
Okay.
You lay off, or you recalibrate yourself, and you set good example. Look, I speak from the position of practical experience. In the private sector, where I used to work for, we got into this crossroad. The first thing we did was to have a vision that, wait, others first before management. Those under the pyramid needed to be taken, no matter how small while those at the top does not take anything home. That's what we are finding. You see, when you do that, it's not going to be enough, but people begin to see situations where
sacrificing.
They may sacrifice because they believe and then they trust in you. We are not saying that. That's one. Secondly, I say intrinsically be lazy because quite a number of employees, or what you call, whatever it is, whether contract, whether regular employees, are not trained and fit for purpose. I know in the public service, I have seen in the public service that to move file between here and there is going to be 3 of us. So it will take me 2 days for me to move it to David. It will take David 1 week to move it to you.
Bottleneck, as they would say.
The bottleneck is simply corruption. I mean, you've been put in there by political patronage. So you cannot, and then, was it last week or a week before the last one, we were talking about the fact that we had people in the payroll, like jackpot and all that. So you need the will and the grit with technology. You can't just continue to stay there. And then finally, when
before you say
cannot
finally,
pay,
when you talked about the jackpot thing, something came to mind. You know, I was having this conversation with someone, and we're talking about governors, political office holders that move from one aspect of governance to another, move from the state, governing the state, to being in the Senate. They still collect pensions.
What do you call that?
They collect pension.
What do you call that?
After serving 4 or 8 years.
Yes.
And then we have civil servants who have been accused of being abroad and still collecting their salaries.
Yes.
Now the question now is, who taught who? Who taught who? Is it the civil servants,
Alibaba and the
political office holders, or the civil
Alibaba
servants
is the head of the thieves.
learning from the leaders?
Alibaba is the head of the thieves.
Well, we have a minute, so let's just
The thieves,
wrap this up in a minute.
they grow up and become
So the people are learning from their leaders.
from their rulers. And so when you are not capable of showing that good example, Moses, when you begin to jump up in a marsh, you're not going to survive. You go deeper. We have the moral downturn in everything we do, and there's absolutely no sense of shame. While that is going on, to underline my sense of not having a sense of shame, we have governments at all levels, especially at the federal, that now takes a decision that we cannot pay minimum wage, but we can pay, pilgrimage. We have a governor, a deputy governor, a speaker of the House of Representatives, while these people are going on Hajj, lying to ourselves over religiosity. My point is, it's been done, it can be done, by personal example, by creative ingenuity. One of the things that we did, when we realized in the private sector that we could not accommodate all, we decided to retrain. We take people out.
Not lay off.
Retrain them for, you can go into agri. You have farmlands that can, and then you have the security issues. Again.
Oh, so you basically lay them off their job, but empower them to do something else.
Empower them, and they were happy to do it.
Okay.
They were extremely happy to do it.
This is a conversation that we can get into.
They are into SMEs. These things are capable, is possible, but when you...
we'll get into this conversation in subsequent times on the show. But right now, let's get into this one. The words of an APC chieftain, Olatubosun Oyintiloye, who has said, look, act fast as Nigerians are starving and some food items are no longer affordable. He goes ahead to plead with President Tinubu to act fast, of course. And then we also have the statement from the prophet of our time, Primate Ayodele, who has warned of political coup against the Tinubu administration. He reeled out some prophecies. Well, he does this every year, but this one is coming mid-year, I must say. Oh well, let's look at these conversations when we come back from this break. Stay with us.